Hello everyone, this is Claire Van Steenwijk coming to you from my home office. I want to talk to you a little bit about what our government is doing and all the propaganda they're putting out. Not only the government itself, but all the media is putting out, all your so-called experts are talking about. Everybody's mentioning it, and no one wants to really debunk this for what it is. And one other thing before I forget, I'd like people to understand that I think the time is long past when we can expect our so-called leadership in the Republican Party to call a spade. I want these guys to start saying things that are true and what's really going on. These people aren't liberals, they're not progressives, they're not on the left. These people are Marxists, socialists. That's what they are. They're globalists, one world government, that's who and what they are. And everything they're starting to do right now, or have been doing actually for quite some time, but right now it seems to be on either a fast track, steroids, or on the jet rocket, being propelled by a jet rocket, is for a reason. They have a limited amount of time, and I think they know that, to get all of this done. And they're going to try to get as much of it done as they can to create as much chaos as possible within our borders and around the world, for that matter. And they're using a couple of old issues. One is a real old dog. The so-called systemic racism, or the theory of racism, if you know what I mean. It's really kind of critical race theory, or systemic racism, or racism in general. The systemic race theory is basically a Marxist tool that was used back in the 20th century, late 19th, 20th century, to turn entrepreneurs or industrialists and the workers against the industrialists, thereby forming socialism, or communism as it turned out. This tool was used in Asia, China, Vietnam, Thailand, other places, as well as predominantly in the beginning in Russia. And it worked out very successfully. They tried it here in the 60s. It didn't work out too well because we had the civil rights movement going on then. You had quite a large middle class, we still do. And so this idea of the workers at General Motors or Ford or Lockheed or Northrop or anywhere else, or for that matter McDonald's, fighting against the people that were writing their checks when all of them were making really pretty good money, had medical and dental and optical benefits, wasn't going to work. So they had to find something else. So they have repackaged this whole thing into racism, both systemic and the theory of racism. Now, systemic racism, as I think most of you know, is so-called within our laws, within our housing departments, within every form of government we have, in factories, school systems, everything. I submit to you this is a joke when you look at the progress. I mean, you're talking about systemic racism, and it's the first and only so far speech that Mr. Biden has given, with 200 people in attendance, some of them sleeping, with a black vice president sitting behind him, a woman. And the former vice president of the first black president. And then when you look at all these other people making their comments, especially from the black community, talking about systemic racism or how racist we all are, they're doing it on their TV shows as news anchors, or what they want to call news anchors, or comedians, or whatever. And how did they get there if we're so racist? How did LeBron James become a billionaire probably, if we're all racists, or all the others in sports and other activities? How did this happen in this country if we're the racist nation they want us to believe we are? Because we're not. Oh, granted, we aren't perfect yet, but we're working on it. And our founders knew we weren't perfect when we started. But they set up our Constitution so it could be amended and work and change and develop and free people. Because when America started, there was no slavery here. When the Pilgrims got there, there wasn't slavery. We didn't have it. That didn't come till a long time later. And then hundreds of thousands of Americans from the northern states died to free the blacks that were in slavery in the southern states. I guess they were all racist. Abraham Lincoln was a racist. What? How does that work? Doesn't work too well for me. Don't believe it should work too well for you. But they're using that to divide us because they want us divided. They're using the school system's educational nonsense to divide us by teaching this nonsense in schools. And now they're also using, in a new tool they have, and I think they finally become aware of it, is illegal immigration. Because by Biden opening up the borders and allowing hundreds of thousands of people across, and thousands upon thousands of unaccompanied children, and then saying, what we want to do is allow them either a pathway to citizenship or at least give them legal status. Once you give them legal status, our citizenship, either way you do this, you then have migrated citizenship to other people. They will have family reunification come about. And then that will bring their mothers, their fathers, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, etc., into the nation. So you could see maybe 500,000 illegals that come in this wave, bringing another 10 million in the next. That's what's going on. Not to mention all the ones that are already here. They are trying to do the same thing. They intend to transform this country into a totally socialist nation. That's the idea they have, and that's what they're promoting. Now, years ago, some of you know that in 2012 I ran against Jeff Flake. Now, this shirt I've got on right now, Take Back Our Country, was given to me by a country western singer who sang for us at a fundraiser we had for veterans back in 2011, I believe it was, at the Wigwam. But she sang songs about this. And people don't seem to understand how serious it was. I had people back then calling me a conspiracy theorist when I ran against Jeff Flake because I talked about China, I talked about Russia, I talked about Cuba, I talked about us exporting all of our jobs, we talked about NAFTA, I talked about them building up the Chinese military-industrial complex and the Chinese manufacturing complex that we as Americans and others around the world built up. Because without us sending all our manufacturing over there and others, they wouldn't have had an economy. We gave it to them. We gave them the very bullets they needed to destroy America. And we're now handing Biden and his cronies like Bernie and Kamala and OAC and all the others in D.C. and all these governors throughout this country and mayors, city councilmen, county supervisors, state officials, elected senators, and congressmen, and state senators and state legislators, some of which are Republicans, and they are globalists, they are one world government types. They don't give a damn about us or this nation. So it's up to us to take it back. And it's not just up to us to talk about it. Now I realize some people think voting doesn't matter, and you don't need to bother with it, and it's a lost cause. Well, you know what? George Washington lost more battles than he won, but he never surrendered. Never surrendered. And out of the jaws of defeat, he choked out and grabbed out victory. And we can do the same thing if we just stick together and continue to battle this. I'm asking all of you to join us in this fight. All of us. Whoever hears this, share it. Understand that the systemic racism, the illegal immigration, and immigration in itself, the way it's set up, and the reinstituting of racism, that they build the theory of racism in this country, are all tools of Marxism. And they want to use this to destroy our nation. We are Americans. We're not a race, we're a nationality. On your birth certificate, on your passport, it says you're an American. I'm not white, I'm not black, I'm just an American. Do you realize we're all created in the image of God? And God created us, now think about this. Oh yeah, we have different colors, just like automobiles do. But we have things automobiles don't have. You can't really put a Chevy transmission into a Ford. You can't put a Ford transmission into a Chrysler. But you can put my blood or your blood, whatever color you are, into another person that has nothing to do with you at all. Or a heart transplant, or a liver, or a kidney, or an eye. Do you realize how miraculous that is? And how God created us that way? We're all different, yet we're all the same. All we need to do is shed this skin off of us and get along. Look deeper into our souls so we can love each other the way God intended us to do. I ask all of you, no matter your so-called color, and especially those of you who are believers, reject this racist doctrine that's being spread across our country that's causing division. Whether it's to blacks, Hispanics, Asians, whites, Indians, doesn't matter. Reject it. It is hate, it is bigotry, it is wrong. We need to get rid of it, and we need to understand. And if I'm talking to any Democrats, you especially need to understand, because I ran into one of you today. And you know what he said to me? The other day I ran into him and we talked a little bit. He didn't like it, I could tell by the way he winched back when I made a comment about our government in D.C. He said to me, I don't see you don't want to talk about government today. I said, no, I'm on my walk. And he says, well, he said something about Trump, and I looked at him, I said, what? And he says, It's Trump and I said, we have open borders. He says, yeah. Then he says, he gets smart and he goes, yeah, because I wear a shirt on the back that says Jesus loves you. He says, yeah, Jesus Christ said in the Bible, build a wall and keep them out. And I looked at him, I said, you shouldn't mock God. Christ never ever said anything like that. But I do believe this. You live in a house with walls, windows, and doors, and you do it for a reason, so you can decide who comes in. We are guaranteed our safety in a republic form of government. And we are guaranteed that our government will repel invasions, not aid invasions. And our federal government is assisting invasions right now. And I got a feeling our state and government is going down there, but I don't think they're turning anybody away. I don't believe that they're guarding our border from what? So they can go a different direction and get across in a different way? The only way you can deal with our border is to repel an invasion. But remember this, we are Americans, we were born here. Are you immigrated here legally and became a citizen? Or you came here legally and you're on a pass or a visa? If America falls, if America ends as a republic, freedom around the world will not exist. That's the duty we all have. The Bible says, render unto God what is God's and unto Caesar what is Caesar's. God granted us this nation. He gave us our freedoms. It's up to us to make sure we fight for it. So I encourage all of you to find people to run in 2022, support them and vote for them. And I spell support with a $sign because they need it. They're fighting against the enemy that's the incumbents, and the incumbents are the enemy. So remember, racism is wrong. Don't even let it take seed in your heart. And make sure you talk that way to others. Pass this on and share it. I want to thank you for taking the time. God bless you and thank you. And remember, we have people in our government we cannot trust, and they need to be removed by election if possible. God bless. Have a great day. Talk to you again sometime. Bye for now.